Hello, welcome to the Annihilation review here on Screen Source. My name is Dylan.
I'm Jessica.
And we are a couple.
I will neither confirm nor deny this.
I don't know why I said
I'm
that.
just kidding. Yeah, we are.
But actually, we've been doing reviews, and we've had this show, Screen Source, for a little while now, and it's never been just you and me. So that's one thing that I was pointing out that I just thought was kind of weird.
That's true. It's weird.
I feel like I'm with you on a professional level at this moment.
Sure. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
What
are we talking about today,
we're
Jess?
Professionals. We're talking about the movie Annihilation with Natalie Portman.
That's true. This is a movie based off of a book, or a book series, rather. I have not read the book, nor have you. I hear that it does take a lot of liberties as far as the bulk of the story, actually. And the director had mentioned this too prior to the movie coming out, that if you're expecting this movie to be like the book,
You're going to be disappointed.
You're going to be disappointed, yeah.
Can't we say that for most film adaptations that were once books? I think for the most part, it's not like they are super precise about. And you have to think about it as they don't have as much time to put. Reading a book is a much different experience than fitting all of this content into 2 hours.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, no, but I guess even in the larger story, for instance, if you read the Harry Potter series and then you watch the movies, the larger story is pretty much generally
they're pretty
there.
true to the story.
I hear that Annihilation again takes more liberties than that, but
right.
I probably need to read the book, and I actually just might, because the movie was, gosh darn it, Chess, just good.
It was.
It's my radio voice.
You know what, Dylan? I don't know that I completely agree with you.
Really?
So coming out of the movie, I felt my initial reaction was, holy crap, this is a mind melt. I don't know what I just watched. And I was taken aback, and it was beautiful. It was certainly beautiful. I would say that. But I think that the more I think about it, my rating of it went down.
Okay.
My initial review, I thought I would have given it an A-. Now I'm thinking more like a B-. Just because I feel that it was very plot driven, and not that this is always a bad thing, but it was heavily plot driven. I don't feel that we got to know all of the characters well enough. I don't feel that there was enough character development.
I agree with that.
And so I think
we got to know some of the characters pretty well.
Some of the characters, very few, maybe one or two, and probably only one. Probably only Natalie Portman, who was the character we got to know the best. I really would have liked to know the backstory for all the other characters. They were very interesting.
You did mention time is a factor. Yes. And because it's so plot driven, it's very hard to toil that. It's kind of like a one or the other, right?
Right. I feel though that there are movies that did a sci-fi concept better and had both a good plot and character development. And so
do you have any in mind?
Yes. I don't know why I can't think of the name. Was it the Nolan movie? What was it called? Transcendent? No, not Transcendent.
Inception?
Inception.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another one that I don't know if Nolan did that one, but it had Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey and.
Oh yeah, Nolan did do that one. What's the one in space? Did you? Christopher Nolan one in space. He'll check on that right now. Yeah, but that was a Christopher Nolan film.
Yeah, I think those were done better than this movie.
Okay.
I think that they accomplished both a good plot and character development. I think there's a way to do both, and I don't know that this movie did both.
Interstellar, yes, which was a good movie. I agree. To be a little fair, I feel like this was very different. I understand that they're both sci-fi-ish, sci-fi-esque,
right?
Or I guess all three. Annihilation, though, it felt more fantastical, I think, than sci-fi to me. And that's largely because in fantasy, it is it's not so much the future it's not so much a time shift as it is in the current state, just like almost like a different dimension of it, right? So I don't know, think like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, like this is existing now, and there's different levels of fantasy too. There's like high fantasy, there's low fantasy, all sorts of stuff.
But again, both Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter accomplished better combination of plot and character development at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not necessarily trying to compare to those, but I am saying that like it, because like for instance, I'm thinking of like one of the first like big scenes where we see this enormous alligator. You know, that I don't think necessarily science fiction when I think of that, but I feel like we're digressing a little bit.
That was just my initial thought.
So your initial reaction is that you like this movie, you gave it an A, and you dropped it more recently. Was there a reason for that specific drop?
Because I thought about it more.
Okay.
I think my initial reaction was just based on how it looked. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I thought that I always loved Natalie Portman. I think her acting's always great. I just want to stop you for a second. You were talking about like it's gorgeous. I think it's funny that it kind of came out like back to back with Black Panther. Right.
Just 1 week apart, and Black Panther was also gorgeous,
beautiful.
And I feel like we've been getting more and more. Doctor Strange last year was the year before. I can't even remember anymore.
I think the cinematography just keeps getting better and better. And so just based off that and feeling like, holy shit, what did I just watch? That kind of a reaction. I was initially more optimistic, thinking more and more about the details of the film. I would drop my rating to like a B minus.
Okay.
You also still good, but not as good as I initially would have.
You also mentioned Natalie Portman, and this has been a big point of contention for this film. Apparently, in the books, or at least in the later books, the character that Natalie Portman portrays is Asian, of some Asian descent. I don't know which, and I believe Asian American.
Right.
And then another one of the characters who was there was two other white women in this ensemble, and one of them was portrayed or was in the books a Native American.
Okay.
So the director apparently had mentioned that this casting was is based off kind of strictly off the first book, and that he had not been thinking about the
right. It didn't explicitly say in the first book what the ethnicities of the characters were. So that's what his
explanation was for
forgive me for saying this, but that's what his excuse was.
Sure. And so this movie has been accused of whitewashing, I guess.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, I guess, yes, I sort of agree, because if it was an Asian actress or an Asian person, why not get an Asian actress? You know?
But specifically too, like Asian female.
Right.
There's so few Asian females. I mean, you could list them on your hand,
especially
on
as
television
leading,
or movies.
as a leading role. I mean, come on, let's start doing this. It's 2018.
Right.
We need to go with the times. But besides that, I don't necessarily think it was a whitewashed cast, because if you think about it, you have one person who's Black, you have several Hispanic characters. I mean, that's pretty diverse.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But I don't know that. I think they could have gone with a Native American character as well as a Asian character, and I think it would have done the book justice, and it would have been better for the film, probably.
Sure.
Especially because like both Asians and Native Americans are extremely underrepresented in film. So, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman even agreed with that. She was like, I think that it's so true that, minorities are underrepresented in film. And if I want to be supportive of the film, but I also want to say that like, it is important that we start representing people who are minorities more in film.
Yeah.
So
good for you. Good on you, Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
As far as the story is concerned, I thought it was fantastic. They are jumping back and forth a lot between Natalie Portman's character's like life situation without her husband in the picture, and then we kind of there's a turn of events where she's now ending up in the place of where her husband once was, where she didn't realize where he was.
Right.
And you find out as you go through it that there was she was having sex with a colleague of hers from the school, and she felt guilty. And at first, I was wondering about the necessity of these scenes and why they were important. And then on the drive home, from this movie, you and we were reading a tremendously well written article that was breaking apart kind of the symbolisms of this film.
Right.
And this must have been done a lot, especially because there's a book. So people have been breaking this apart, I'm sure, for a while. But as far as the movie, a lot of that symbolism really comes to a head at the end of the film, the last 20 minutes, which was batshit crazy.
Right.
And it was really cool and really
it's the most.
When have you seen this in a film? Is what I'm asking.
It's the scene that you're like, this is a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
Yeah, we could say. I mean, this is a spoiler review, so there's a carbon copy of her.
Right, and it is like this
opalescent
looking, alien looking
version of her
thing that has no face, and it's like a mannequin almost, and it just like is mirroring all her movements, and then she like touches it with something, and it turns into her, and it's her doppelganger,
right?
And it's just crazy. And then she like puts a grenade in its hand and blows, and then like it blows up, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the symbolism here is that she is destroying her quote unquote healthy life at home, her marriage, and at the end she physically destroys a version of her, or she destroys herself. And then the very last scene is what's leading us into there's probably going to be a second movie,
right?
Probably,
right, because
especially because there's other books,
right? Because you think that this world that they're in called the Shimmer is gone because you see it burning at the end. However, the part that makes you think that there's going to be a sequel is that she goes to see her husband, who is actually her husband's doppelganger, in this, I don't know, it's a quarantined area outside of the Shimmer. And he was on life support because nobody that goes into this place, the Shimmer, comes out alive. And she was the first person that ever came out alive. Aside from her husband. Her husband was actually the first person. She was the second person.
But it wasn't actually her husband.
Yeah, but you find out later on that it was his doppelganger.
I'm under the impression, too, that it actually is her at the end. We see her light, her eyes shimmer as well as her husband's.
Right.
And we know that her husband is not actually her husband, or at least that's what it seems like. And I think, though, it actually is her because we watch her destroy the copy of her.
Right.
But I think it's that it's gotten so much into her body, right? Because you kind of become one with it.
Right.
It's almost like radiation, like cancer, the way they explain.
Yeah. And it does this weird
refraction
thing where it like pushes her up against a wall, and like it looks like it's raping her, but it's not. It's like taking her in, sort of.
Well, no, but it ran up against the wall because she ran up against the wall.
Right.
It was copying her move.
Right. But then it was like
pushing against her. Yeah,
and
that
then
was
she
weird.
Was bleeding, and it was very like it felt really uncomfortable.
Somebody had explained that it actually kind of felt like a modern dance, like a interpretive dance almost. Yeah. And it did when she was.
It was very artsy. She was like doing this movement, and then the carbon copy was like copying her. It was strange. Super strange.
I want to tell you that overall, I agree with you. I do wish we learned a little bit more about the other characters, but here's the thing: they died off. Some of them way early too. I mean, a third into the movie, maybe halfway. I don't know that we needed to see it as much, but regardless, though, the other side of it that we're talking about, the story, I thought the story was a lot of fun. I love the build-up. I really think that they were able to like climb that ladder and pique your interest the further and further. The first monster being the alligator, the second being the bear-looking thing, and then the maybe my favorite scene, I think, is that giant warthog-looking thing, and it takes in the scream of its last dying enemy, or it did. And when
it
it
took
was
her vocal cords.
when it was screaming, that was just fucking. And I love that they even talked about it in the movie. They're like, this is like, as the characters they're talking about, like that was fucking crazy and scary.
Right.
And as the audience member, I felt the same exact way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the concept was really cool. The fact that there are these women who they all have like losses that they've gone through, and they basically are kind of alone in the world.
Sure.
And
let's just say how often do you see a all full female ensemble sci-fi cast?
Right. That
Never.
part was cool.
Yeah.
And I liked a lot of these actresses, and they all were like professionals in their field. So there was a geologist, Natalie Portman's character was a biologist. We had a physicist, and then a psychologist. So it was really, and then we had ex-military, and then we had a paramedic. So it was just really, really interesting.
I'm just getting flashbacks now of the film when you're watching them watch a video, which they did twice in the movie. The first one where he's cutting the guy's stomach open, and like, it was really fun. I mean, it honestly kind of felt like a video game. It felt like The Last of Us here and there. I know you're not like a big video gamer. Actually, you played a little bit of The Last of Us, the zombie one.
It scared me, so I stopped.
But there was some scenes in it that actually reminded me of it. I mean, overall, I guess I want to agree that I don't know that I would give it an A. I would probably give it, though, like a high B. This is a high concept film. Nothing like I've seen before. I'd say actually the one that it kind of reminds me of is, I always forget the name of it, but it's another sci-fi film where they're out in space. Tyler had us watch it, and towards the end it kind of turns into a horror film. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
it's like Something Rising. I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this movie, I like the concepts. I don't know that you needed to kill off all the characters. I mean, I guess that's part of the plot, but I just felt like maybe there was another way to realize the world without killing off all the characters.
Sure.
I think the main concept about the world being a genetic prism, and I'm getting this off Wikipedia, distorting and refracting the DNA of the organisms living within, was really, really cool concept.
Hard to wrap your brain around, but yeah, it's fun to think about science in that way.
One of the characters, she like turns into flowers, like just turns into like a bunch of flowers. It's kind of crazy.
It's actually one of the more like pretty scenes. I kind of didn't understand the concept of how she just decided to give into it, and then it just happens.
Right.
That was a little bit odd to me, but it was a very cool scene.
I think also we were reading a review, and I think we should look up what the review was, because it was very well written. But we were reading that, and it basically said that the main theme of the movie was that humans have this urge. We all have this urge within us to self-destruct. We have this self-destructive urge, and that's kind of a theme that resonates throughout the entire film. And I really felt that as I thought about it afterwards, and was thinking about how we all get this urge, or have had this urge at some point or another, to like, when you're driving over a bridge, it's like, or a cliff, you're like, what if I just drove off right now? Like, what would happen? And we all know what would happen, but it's like this urge that we all have. And I've talked about it with so many people. We've all felt this like urge to self-destruct, and we don't know where it comes from, but it's like, it's there. And
I think it's like partially curiosity.
Yeah, it's partially curiosity, partially just like you were saying, that like life is like, a lot of us think that life is very meaningful, but like sometimes you realize that like, what is this all about? Like, it's not, there's no meaning.
Yeah, kind of a nihilistic view.
Yeah, like a nihilistic view of life. And so I think that part resonated with me. I thought that I do think that that's an urge that we all have, and so I like that.
So final thoughts before we wrap this up? End credit scenes, gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, just so pretty. I mean, the whole movie is beautiful, and it really makes you think. It's a strange movie. It has some very artsy, sort of like indie scenes that you're like, I like the end scene that you were talking about, where they're doing
the
that
final
like
act
dance.
Oh, okay, yeah,
weird dance. Where she goes down into this whole cave thing.
When you say I don't think in a bad way though. It's
it's beautiful, but part of me wants to say that this is sort of a horror film, and I wasn't expecting that going into it.
Yeah.
But it scared me quite a few times, and that's not a bad thing. I think.
lot in the way that an alien movie scares people.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely say that like Natalie Portman, her character in this sort of reminded me of Ripley from Alien, and I just think like she has the same sort of feel to her in this movie, and
she's very inquisitive. She's always she's a leader. She wants to go in there.
Right. They all play very strong female roles. I mean, besides the fact that most of them die, which sucks, but I would say overall, it's a very beautiful, interesting film it's thought-provoking. So I would say go see it for that.
I think this movie is going to hold up for a long time. I think people are going to be talking about it for a while. I hope this series continues because it was a really fun watch, and I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, I'd say go see it. It's definitely not my favorite sci-fi, but it's just really interesting. So yeah. Go see it.
Thought-provoking. Please watch it. Again, my name is Dylan.
I'm Jessica.
And tune into Screen Source at 6 p.m. MST every Sunday. And this upcoming Sunday, we're going to do a watch-along of the Oscars, if you are so inclined. So thank you for sticking around and watching. Thank you, Digi, for the production.
Yeah, thanks, Digi.
And we'll see you guys soon.